Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about Mahler's Das Klagende Lied. Oh, baby. You know, I'm doing sort of Mahler cleanup with the greatest recordings ever series because then we can start all over again. Yay! It's so much fun because so many of the greatest recordings ever have been of Mahler and his friends. I guess we can sort of tidy up the series by talking about this one, Michael Gielen. Michael Gielen with the ORF Vienna Radio Symphony Orchestra and the Wiener Sing Academy with, Brigitte Pöschner-Klebel, Mariana Lipovchek, who I love, David Rendell, and Manfred Hemm. Now, this is a live recording, I believe, on Orfeo. It was recorded by Austrian Radio, and it was recorded in 1990. So it was a little while ago. My God, is it 30 some odd years ago? I can't believe it. It seems like it was yesterday. Anyway, but it was just recently released. It was released a couple years ago. And I think it made one of my COLA Award choices for Best of the Year. It's an amazing performance. Absolutely amazing. And Das Klagende Lied has its editorial issues. I mean, it does, because Mahler revised it. Originally, it was in 3 parts. And this is the 3-part version, which is really great because you want to hear all 3 parts, even if you wind up playing just the revised version, which is the last 2 parts, without the first. The first is the story, the plot. The second, well, let me just give it to you really quickly. Mahler wrote the libretto. It's one of those German romantic things about, about 2 brothers who want to marry a queen. And the proud queen says she's only going to marry the guy who finds the fabulous hidden, geranium hidden in the forest somewhere. I think it's a flower. Let's call it a geranium. Maybe it's a begonia. Who knows? So anyway, these 2 brothers, one of whom is, a blonde Nazi type, and the other who is dark and swarthy and possibly of ethnic extraction, although they're brothers. They must be half-brothers. They go off together, and the blonde one finds the flower, and of course the dark, swarthy one kills him to grab the flower. And that's what happens in part 1, the part that Mahler cut. It tells this story, and it is repetitious. That's true. It has this refrain for the chorus. It's just a descending minor scale, which is one of the main leitmotifs of the work, and it comes back over and over and over again. I understand why Mahler cut it, and it's long. It's the longest part of the whole piece. And so he cut it. But the music is just echt Mahler. He was only like 19 when he wrote it, but it could be by no other composer. From the very opening note, from the horn call, da, 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 da. I mean, it's like, Mahler! You could tell exactly who wrote it. But then Mahler revised the whole thing, changing the scoring quite considerably in some cases, and left parts 2 and 3 as the modern version of the work. Now, in part 2, a minstrel is tootling through the forest, and he comes across a bone. Well, guess who the bone belongs to? Yes, it belongs to the murdered brother. But he makes a flute out of the bone, not realizing it's like an arm bone or something like that. And he starts playing the flute, and horror of horrors, the singing flute, comes to life and sings the story of the murder. And he figures, gee whiz, I should go play at the royal wedding, which is happening next week. They're going to love this story. So that's part 2. In part 3, we have the wedding. And the wedding is wonderful, and it's even more Mahler because it's got like an offstage band and all these simultaneous things happening, and it's delicious. And so the whole thing is going on, and the queen looks pale for some reason. We don't know why she's pale. She's terribly, terribly pale. And the chorus is going, oh, Leid, weh, oh, sorrow, oh, woe. Oy vey, basically. And then the minstrel shows up, and he plays the flute, and what do you think happens next? Of course, it tells this horrible story, and as if mesmerized, the evil brother jumps up from his seat, and he grabs the flute, and he plays it, and it once again tells this awful story of murder and death and destruction, and the entire castle collapses and everybody dies. The end. It's wonderful. So, the band stops playing, and oh my goodness, and the chorus is screaming, and there's a big wallop on the tam-tam when they go, oh, Schrecken, horror, shrieking. Oh, it's just wonderful. So, it's been recorded in either of its versions many times. It really has, and it's not still not performed regularly by like choral societies and things, but it's done on disc. It should be played. It's wonderful music. It is absolutely vintage Mahler. I mean, there's no question about that. Whichever version you decide to do, the second part, the revised version, is good because it's a second half piece. It's 40 minutes long. It's like as long as a Dvorak or Brahms symphony. It's perfect. The longer one goes a little longer, but we're used to that too. So it's as long as a Bruckner symphony or Mahler's first or fourth. So either way, it ought to get performed, and it has been recorded. And until this one tootled along, the best version out there was probably Michael Tilson Thomas with the San Francisco Symphony, which is still marvelous. A lot of the Mahler people did it. Boulez did it. Sinopoli did it. Simon Rattle did it. Basically, there were problems with like all the other ones. Haitink did the two-part version. But Gielen is so good with this kind of stuff. Anything about horror, horror, misery, death, destruction, doom, nihilism, he's the guy. I mean, he just really gets under the skin of the piece. And it's colorful. It's moodiness. It's black humor. The trashy offstage dance band in the third part. That's exactly the kind of thing he does so well. And he's got his forces playing, totally on board. And the sonics are fantastic, and the soloists are fantastic. I made a video about this already, so you can go look at that too. But really, if you didn't get this the first time, get it while you can, before it's too late, because it's just stunning. And if you like Mahler and you don't know this work, you owe it to yourself to hear it, because there is a little bit, anyway, more to Mahler than just the symphonies. There's the opera Die Drei Pintos, there's a couple spare orchestral movements, things that are really worth hearing, and of course all the orchestral songs, which are amazing. And this is right up there. So it deserves to be considered one of the greatest recordings ever. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.